And then you're like, why the fuck am I writing this? Like, this is not where we're trying to go. This is not what the story is about. If you're bored writing it, probably the reader is going to be bored reading it. Nobody should be bored here.
Also, insane move to write this book as an only child.
I mean, I guess once you decide you're going to write a fantasy novel about a whole bunch of shit that you've never experienced, just, throw in some sibling dynamics. If you were starting a new chapter, it might be like, Phoebe was fucking pissed that morning, right?
Beyond the PhIrst Page. Let's go beyond the PhIrst Page.
Welcome back, Second Pagers. This is Beyond the PhIrst Page podcast with siblings Phoebe, Phil, and Isaac. I'm Phoebe.
I'm Phil.
I'm Isaac.
And this is Club Meeting 67. We are talking about Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne. And we have the author, Brian Staveley, with us today. Brian, thank you so much for being on the podcast and welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
We are very excited to talk with you. And I think this opener is an apt opener because it is the best book of 2026 that we've read. And I will share mine. It actually was the third book in this series for me. But to say a different book for our listeners, and I'd already read this whole series previous to this year, so I feel like that was a bit of a cop-out too. I'm going to recommend Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman, which I guess it is kind of a fantasy, but it's also, I don't even know the genre you would really call it. Maybe sci-fi more so. Very entertaining and funny. And I just discovered that series. And
Are you reading it or listening to it?
I listened to it, and the reader is awesome. He's actually the voice for the guy in The Emperor's New Groove, the like henchman. I forget his name.
I didn't realize that.
He's great.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it makes a big difference with that book to listen rather than to read it.
Yes. So why would you say that? Why do you say that? Just because he is so good?
Well, it was recommended to me by a friend who was listening to it, and I picked up just a print copy and sort of bounced off of it. And I just think that the narrator does a great job with the voices and kind of brings it alive. So I enjoyed it quite a bit more actually on audio, which is unusual for me. I don't listen to a lot of books. I usually just read print, but yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoy the reader. So that was mine. Isaac, what about you? What was your favorite book of 2026 so far?
So also just not to like fangirl over Brian, this was one of the best series for sure. And also not to like just pump up our podcast a little too much, I won't mention another book in this chapter that we're doing. So, and I had read that previously to this year, so I'll do one that was completely new for this year, and I'll go In the Woods, which was by Tana French, the Dublin Murder Squad, which we also read earlier in the year for this podcast.
That was a really good one. Phil, what about you?
Mine. So I did read the whole Michael J. Sullivan second series that I had never read before, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. Mine was probably 3 bags full. It was by Leonie Swan, and they made an ABC or an Amazon show about it. It's about a sheep detective. So basically the shepherd always reads to his sheep, and then the shepherd gets murdered, and it's told by the sheep, like the point of view of the
That's
sheep.
the movie that's coming out now, right?
They just made a movie
Jackman.
of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not know that. It
Yeah.
is the cleverest humor that I've ever read. So funny.
Wait, guys, I proposed this book for our murder mystery segment.
Oh.
And you guys all laughed me, didn't even give me the time of day.
The movie's
Well,
getting
now
busy.
Yeah. Oh, the movie looks so good.
It is. Read the book, and it's also a little hard to keep track of because you're hearing points of view of the sheep trying to solve this murder, but they'll just describe people like humans would refer to that person as the preacher, but the sheep refer to him as like the crazy guy who worships the other shepherd that also died. It's really very hard to follow.
That's awesome.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, that was a miss on our end, but now we'll have to read it and follow up with you, Phil.
That's funny. Sorry, Isaac.
Brian, what about you? What was your favorite read of 2026 so far?
I really enjoyed The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, which is not in his kind of main universe where he does most of his stuff, but is sort of an alternate sort of Renaissance era Earth, but where there are, werewolves and vampires and stuff. It's got all of his classic marks, great characterization, great dialogue, a lot of very dark humor. And then I'm reading a book now that I'm not finished with called Nobody Is Ever Missing by Catherine Lacey, which is more sort of literary novel. I picked it up just randomly in a bookstore because the title is the end quote of a really dark John Berryman poem from the Dream Songs that I've always really liked. And I was like, oh, if somebody knows that poem well enough to name their book after it, I will read the book. And that seems to have been a good choice. It's a woman is just, she's kind of like, her brain is unraveling. She leaves her husband and goes to New Zealand to try to find a farm to live on. So the plot is not interesting, but the writing is brilliant and the characterization is great. So I'm really enjoying it.
You're enjoying it. Nice. Cool. That sounds like something I might be interested in. Awesome. Yeah, it's about halfway through the year, so I wanted to hear, especially you two, Brian, I'm sure, not only are you writing, but you're also reading a lot of things. Hopefully you get the time to do that. So wanted to hear what you guys had been reading thus far. It sounds like I got some good ones to take home with me, which is great. Cool. Well, Isaac, would you give us the Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne, maybe a summary of the first book in particular, because that's the one we're kind of pushing for the series, but then we can get into the other two as well. And just for our listeners, this is there will be spoilers. We're kind of discussing the whole series. So as we mentioned in our overview episode, this is one that you should just read the whole series. And so, yeah, hopefully we don't ruin anything for you by listening along with us today.
So a quick summary of the first book was called The Emperor's Blades. The Emperor of the Unhewn Empire has died under suspicious circumstances, and his children are trying to kind of uncover what is going on. So the oldest is Adair. She is living in the capital. She's been elevated to the Minister of Finance, and she's looking for revenge for her father's death. Caden, who is the heir to the empire, he has been sent off like 8 or 10 years ago to live in a monastery with the Shin monks, and is undergoing their training, kind of learns of his father's death months later, and is running from the people trying to kill him, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And then Valen is the youngest. He was sent off at the same time as Caden, and he is training with the Ketrel, which are like the elite soldiers, Navy SEALs of this world. And he kind of uncovers this plot as well and has to finish his training and then goes and tries to save Caden, figuring that Caden is also under threat. And that's kind of the first book. And obviously more happens in the rest of the books, but
yeah, it's very challenging to summarize a fantasy novel. And
well, I was just marveling. I mean, I had to do that a lot when I was first selling the book, and it's so hard. I mean, the publisher always wants a new book. They want a synopsis. And I'm now like, look, I'll write you a synopsis, but nothing that I put in the synopsis is actually going to end up in the book. And it's not going to be very good. And it's going to take me like 2 months to write the damn thing. I hate that part of the job.
Yeah. I mean, just the names alone, and we kind of talked about this too. Like sometimes the fantasy names can trip people up, especially if you're not used to the genre. Yep. But then also Absolutely. Like the access stream, you can't even touch on that as a summary because I think you'll just people will be like, wait, we're going off on a little bit of a tangent here. But that's a critical part.
Yeah. And some books lend themselves really well to this kind of summary because they're really high concept. And it's like, In this book, all the people are actually like the sheep detectives, for instance, or Three Bags Full,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
really lends itself to a summary, right?
Yes.
It's the
Right.
sheep who need to solve. And so people are like, oh, yeah, that sounds cool. But some books that are great books, it's like, well, this is just about like a guy and his dog and they go canoeing. And people are like, that sounds horrible
Yeah.
and boring. But you're like, well, but it's so much better than that. And it's because there's like a beautiful description of some, like, and it's hopeless for some books, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of Phil. His biggest pro for this book was and kind of getting into the plot lines that when you have multiple point of views, sometimes you get that one character that you're like, oh my God, I have to read about this character again. Like, I'm super uninterested in what's going on. And his biggest pro, and Phil, you could elaborate, but it's that every chapter you get to, and even when you add in someone like Gwenna, which we were kind of curious, like why you made her point of view a thing, you still are so excited to read the plot of every character that's going on. And it's just extremely exciting. And so that's
Not everyone feels that way about them.
who do they hate?
That's
Who do they not want to read
interesting.
about?
Well, what do you think? If there was one POV, especially from the first book, if there was one POV
First
character,
book, definitely Adea.
I would
Yeah.
say so too. Yeah.
But hers, like,
Yeah.
she has to, maybe her first 2 chapters are uninteresting, but then once she finds out that Ron Altanja's
Is
killed
the
her
murderer.
dad, then it gets pretty
Yeah.
good.
yeah.
But that one's also tough because it's like you have to set up the politics, and that's like a little bit hard to read about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
one of the things, and I just wanted to expand on the point too, I also don't think it was cheap. So there's a really popular series, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Brian, too, because I don't know how much you guys talk authors about amongst yourselves, but there's a very popular series where there's like 112 chapters, and all of the chapters end on like, and then ... Like, and it was
Like
just
the
like,
cliffhanger.
oh my gosh, like if you leave me on
Yeah.
another cliffhanger, like,
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
you did that. Whereas like you still started being excited to read the chapter, but it wasn't because like you were left on a cliffhanger before.
Yeah.
So
It's something I think a lot about when I'm reading. Like, if I'm reading in bed, which I often do, and I get to the end of a chapter, do I stop there or do I start the next chapter? And it's a surprisingly hard question to ask yourself, like, why am I reading on? I mean, sometimes it's obvious. You're like, well, I just want to see them. They need to kiss, or like that guy needs to
Right.
die, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But often
Right.
it's something a lot more subtle about like, why am I reading this? Or like, I was really into this, but like, no, I'm ready to go to sleep now. Like, how did the author lose me right there? I mean,
Yeah.
not lose me forever. I'm going to pick it up again tomorrow. But like, I try to think about that a lot, like pretty much every night when I go to bed,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. And
So
then
how do you come to that conclusion? Like,
Yeah.
what's the formula that
I would say,
use?
the bag of tricks just, I think, gets bigger and bigger. That you have the obvious cliffhangers that you guys were sort of suggesting. Like, oh, then the door bursts open. But I don't tend to go in that direction because I don't like to be strung along like that either. One of my favorite thing in stories is just these little seeded mysteries that it could be the mystery of a character's true identity or a mystery of a relationship between two characters, all those things that kind of get unraveled slowly but surely over the book. And if I feel like I'm making progress on some of that stuff as a reader, then I'm like, ooh, I want to make a little bit more progress. Like, I think I figured
Right.
out a clue. And I don't write mystery novels, obviously, but I like to read mystery novels. And I think that there are a ton of tricks and techniques that, those of us who don't work in that genre, we can steal from that genre that are very effective, whether you're writing, fantasy or historical fiction or romance or whatever.
Yeah.
I've decided that I'm also okay with certain chapters just ending in like wrapping up, like I think of it as like a musical movement of the book. And it's like, okay, that actually is a place where you should go to bed now. Like,
Right.
we've come to a
It's the
conclusion of
conclusion.
something and let's pick up again tomorrow. And I appreciate it when I feel like that's done a little bit intentionally on the part of other writers as well. So not everything needs to
Yeah.
propel me into the next chapter.
right? Like this is a good place to go to bed. Go ahead and sleep. You've been trying to go to bed for an hour.
Yeah.
but
And
you
then tomorrow
can't.
we're going to get back at it with something new and exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I wanted to just say for Adea, especially as the girl of two brothers, I think this story really speaks to the three of us because of the sibling dynamic.
I
I
love it.
said that like we talked about this and we do like an overview episode to kind of summarize all the books we've read. I did say like there wasn't a chance that hers could be the least favorite of the POVs, but I think because of the kindred sister, spirit, and also she meets Oshi and Rhaenyra, and then really that kind of takes off as well. I disagree. I think she's a favorite character for me for sure. But I wanted to talk to you about some. Yes,
I do
else.
just want to say also insane move to write this book as an only child. I did not know that. That's
sibling dynamic. That is kind of true, Phil.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, I guess once you decide you're going to write a fantasy novel about a whole bunch of shit that you've never experienced, just throw in some sibling dynamics. Some military training. I have no military background. I think I saw a few that you're in the Air Force, but like I have no background. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Put in some more shit I don't know about. Let's go.
You would never
know.
Wait,
while we're talking about the siblings, guys, did you try to like put us in the sibling character roles?
I mean, I think mine was very. I was gonna say I did try to do that. I think mine is obviously very, very obvious, and I do think Adea, like I could certainly relate to her, like being the closest physically and geographically to our parents too. Makes sense. It's hard though to place you two. I think Phil would be the monk. Isaac would be the.
I think the other way.
The opposite. See, it's hard. Your guys' personalities.
Yeah, I think Phil would have been. Wait, sorry. I was saying Adair. Is it Adea?
I said Adair.
Well, Simon Vance is British,
Adair.
So it's Adea when he says it.
Oh, right.
All right. Brian just said it's Adair.
Okay. Adair. Sorry.
Yeah. But it's Adair, and then when he pronounces it, it's
Adair. Okay.
Yeah.
I saw Phil as Adair, me as the monk, and Phoebe as the as
Valen.
Wow,
I see that I see that more. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Phoebe's definitely very fiery.
Yeah. But it was a little challenging, but just a fun little experiment I wanted to run. So
I love that. That's great.
That's so funny.
If I knew you guys better, I could have opinions, but.
Yeah, sorry. Maybe at the end.
I'll leave that to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did really want to talk to you about one specific thing that I've noticed about your writing in particular. Especially, I didn't notice it as much. I've read Skullsworn. I haven't read your new sequel that you're writing, but I'm very excited to now that I did a little just Google about you. But I noticed it particularly in this series, and especially with Valen. And his Valen, maybe I'm saying that incorrectly, but his character, I liked that you did, and I kind of looked up what this was. It was like maybe called a framed narrative, and you could expand upon this too, but where essentially like a battle happens, and he's looking back in the direct future and telling what just occurred. So instead of you as the writer describing the battle, he's describing it looking back, so we know he survived essentially. And I really liked that. I don't know why I did, but I'm wondering if you obviously I would assume it was intentional that you were doing that, and if you could expand upon why you decided to write the story in that way, especially for his POV. I noticed it more, I would say.
Yeah, so, the book is obviously in third person limited, meaning it's a third person perspective, unlike Skullsworn, for instance, which is first person.
Right.
But when you're in Valen's head, you only get in Valen's head. When you see it from Caden's perspective, you only see it from Caden's perspective. And I wanted to set it up that way because I knew eventually the siblings were going to converge and have different perspectives. And a central part of the book is that they don't trust each other or understand each other's perspectives often. Right. And so the POV, that third person limited POV is built for that kind of situation. It's also true of, much more famous example is Game of Thrones, right? Like a lot of those siblings don't know what the others are doing. And it's sometimes readers of my books get frustrated because they're like, why don't these people just talk to each other? Like if they just were honest and just talked to each other, some of this could be avoided. And I'm like, well, a lot of things in our world would be a lot easier if people trusted each other and talked openly, but why don't we do that?
Right.
There's a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
So anyway, I felt like that general POV was the correct choice to write the books. And then when you're working within third person limited POV, there are a bunch of tools that you're kind of thinking about. And one of which is, people have different words for it. I think I call it psychic distance, which is, the way I tend to describe it, I don't have my glasses here, but the character, it has their own eyeballs, right, that they're looking at the world through. And then the narrator also has, in my case, his own eyeballs that he's looking at the world through. If you have very close psychic distance, those two things overlap almost 100%. So the narrator's point of view is the character's POV. That's a very close psychic distance. And that sounds something like, if you were starting a new chapter, it might be like, Phoebe was fucking pissed that morning, right? That's fucking pissed is, even though it's written in third person, fucking pissed is Phoebe's words, Phoebe's language that the narrator's adopting, because I'm so close in psychic distance to where Phoebe is. Where if I said, what's your last name, Phoebe?
Cornell.
Yeah, if the chapter opened, Phoebe Cornell, age 26, living in Virginia, got out of bed in a bad mood. That's a much more distant position, right? And so it's almost like the narrator, it's both in third person limited, but in one, the narrator is really looking at things from ground level through Phoebe's eyes. And the other, the narrator is pulling out a little bit and also looking at Phoebe, looking at the world. And you can expand and contract that psychic distance within a book, within a chapter. And one of the things that happens is as you pull out more, you start to feel like you're reading more of a historical document, right? Or a myth or a legend, right? Legends are often told at a pretty far psychic remove. And then if you zoom in, you're almost in something more cinematic. And because I'm trying to do both in these books, like tell something that is very cinematic and very immediate in certain scenes, but also has the quality of epic and myth and legend in other scenes, I'm playing with that psychic distance, chapter to chapter, scene to scene. So sometimes when you're writing a battle scene, you want it to be like, you're right there. You're one of the people. You're standing right next to Gwenna, wielding a sword. But sometimes you want to give the sense that like this is part of the grand sweep of history that is unfolding, and this battle has implications far beyond the tip of the swords being swung. And then you want to fuck with that psychic. So
yeah, that's really cool. And Valen, I guess, would be he was in the battles more so than the other two. So it makes sense that would be happening. Cool. Thank you for explaining that.
Well, I think now that you're saying that, it's like a bit meta as well, because I think that like Caton's chapters are much colder because of even his psychic distance is, when he's very close, is cold. Yeah.
Right.
Whereas Adair is very emotional. Yeah, that's super interesting. And I think this is the main thrust of most fantasy, is that you have this like fighting for thrones here, but then in the background is like this fight for humanity that is like much bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
The White Walkers are coming and we're all going for the throne. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Some ancient gods or alien horror or, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite part about this was the pace of the book, but I think you kind of controlled it with what you just talked about, that psychic distance. The example that I remembered distinctly when reading was when Valen and his wing escape the island after they get in trouble for Anik being accused of killing the girl. And then it's just like, they're in the mountains. And then they just go back and briefly like, they went in, stole the hawk, and left. And I was like, God, this is so great that like, yes, that probably could have been cool, but now we're already on to something cooler and more important to the entire story.
Yeah. It's, That's another really interesting aspect of writing a novel, because obviously you can spend as much time on whatever you want to spend time on. And I think it's a pretty common experience. Certainly I've had it many times, and a lot of writers I know run into the same thing, where you'll write like 3 chapters, of something, like could have been that, like maybe I even wrote that, I don't remember. And then you're like, why the fuck am I writing this? Like, this is not where we're trying to go. This is not what the story is about. Like, let's get on with it. Have you guys watched like any of those Guy Ritchie movies, like the old ones, like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels or Snatch? He has like he's a director. He does like these British gangster films, but he has a very particular visual style in his filmmaking that does exactly this. It's like, if he needs to get a character to London and then back to New York City, like that'll happen in 15 seconds. Like you have a shot of the guy getting on the plane, doing a shot, passing out, like punching a guy in the face in London, getting back on the plane, doing a shot, passing out, and he's back. And then that's been taken care of. Because that's not what the story was really about. We needed everybody to know that happened, but we didn't need to like dither on it for ages. But I wish I could say that that's a problem I've solved, but it's an ongoing challenge. Every book I throw out a lot of chapters because maybe I needed to write them in order to know what was going on, but you guys definitely didn't need to read them.
It's something, as we're, because we're doing this podcast, we are reading a lot, or I am reading like way more books than I used to in the past 2 years. Yeah. And that's one of the things that like I have noticed a lot. It's just like, God, we are really wallowing in some things here that do not matter. And like, we need to move on. And that really disrupts the pace of a book.
Yeah.
And I loved that all 3 of these, like, there was no wasted words. Like, it was all. Well,
that's good. That's
really
high praise, because I work hard on that.
Yeah.
I mean,
another good rule of thumb is if you're bored writing it, probably the reader is going to be bored reading. And like, but amazing how often I will feel like, well, this is kind of boring, but I need to say it, and then I catch myself. I'm like, no, if it is boring, find a different way. Like, there's no need for me to be bored or you to be bored. Nobody should be bored here.
That's
mission accomplished.
I wish one of us, I feel like we're all on the same page here. I wish one of us was like a fan of side quests to like give us that perspective, because I personally like the Arthurian novel, which is basically just like very limited shit happens and then a lot of side quests. Like, I cannot stand, but like that is a huge genre. But I still like within that, the side quest, I guess, has to be important or interesting.
Yeah, I would say Gwenna as a side quest. Yeah, true.
What's that?
Like I was saying, like, Gwenna, we could say like maybe Gwenna was a side quest, like when she goes back to the islands to get more Ketrel. But I think to your point of like what makes a side quest, that's still adding huge value to the plot, because they needed those Ketrel, those newly trained Ketrel to then fight Ballandin. So I don't know what makes a side quest a side quest. Good question.
I think that side quest in your usage can have like a pejorative meaning, and I get it. And I think that just means a side quest that you haven't convinced the reader is necessary. Right? Yeah. Right? Yeah. But like, I mean, Dungeon Crawler Carl is like all kind of side quests.
True.
in a way, right? Yeah. But if you convince the reader that the side quest is both interesting and somehow necessary to what's going on in the book, then it becomes part of the central narrative.
Right.
So have you guys read Ken Liu's Dandelion Dynasty?
No.
I bounced off it really hard.
Yeah. Oh.
I really like that saying. I think we should steal that.
Copy. Yeah, I found it pretty boring. I'm sorry, Ken. Yeah.
So the first
did you guys like it?
In the last, so I loved it. The first book is hard to get through. The first quarter of the first book, I think, is the weakest part of the series, and it's almost like the first book is a prequel to a trilogy. So it's sort of weird pacing, but just in the third book, there's this the second half of the book is like them competing in this restaurant competition, which like is absolutely an insane move, but like probably
Yeah.
one of the most entertaining things I've ever read. Like just so like, and I was like, this is very important to the plot. And then I was like summarizing
Yeah.
it, and I'm like, what the fuck was happening?
Yeah. Right. Well, now you've made me want to go back and read it again because I don't think I got through the first quarter of the first book. I think I was like, well,
Yeah, the main characters are completely different. Like it's his children are the main characters actually of the series. So it really is like a prequel of the trilogy. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
But
I really like that saying. I bounced off of it. I think we definitely need to use that in the future.
to pick that up.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Because I think it's a nice way to say it because it's amazing to me. Some books that I love and that make me so jealous as a writer that I didn't write, I'll talk to other people and they're like, oh, I didn't like that book. And
you're like,
I'm like,
what?
oh, really? And that, yeah, I'm like, oh, I just feel like I should let that guy write the books. Like he's obviously doing a much better job. But then other books that I can't stand, people they have 19 copies on their bookshelves and it's their favorite book ever. And
Yeah.
it's just a good lesson. Like there's a lot of different readers, there's a lot of different writers, and like it's cool. It always makes me happy when there's a book that I have not enjoyed, and then like this, I run into somebody who's like, "Oh, I love that book," because I'm like, "Good, I'm glad that book found its home in somebody's mind."
Right.
Like I'm glad because there's nothing sadder than a book that nobody wants to read.
Yeah, so true.
That's a great segue for one of the big questions I want to ask you is sort of just like, where does your inspiration come from? And this kind of stemmed from our discussion, us three, on the intro about like just fantasy, like names. So like country names, character names. But as well, just like I think there is some tropes, the like, you know, big, they have decided there are fantasy tropes out there. So people can kind of fall into those. But yeah, where does your inspiration come from? Because like, I think of myself as kind of like a creative, imaginary kind of guy. Like grew up like a lot of different worlds in my head. Me and Phil like hitting each other with sticks, doing all that. But like, that all came from reading books, like not just like out of the, you know, like not a lot of it was inspired by something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's true for me too. So, you know, there are many tributaries, I would say, to the inspiration. It's not just one spring. I think a lot of stuff feeds into it. A lot of it is reading fantasy, and I'm sure you've had this experience of reading fantasy where either you were enjoying a book, but then something frustrated you and you wish it had gone a different direction, or you were reading a book that you enjoyed all the way through and you wanted to know more about the world, but you never got to learn about it. Or you thought like, oh, if I was writing this, I would add in this element. And all of that has been generative for my stuff, right? Like, oh, the special, like the Ketrel, like fantasy is filled with like elite bands of warriors, right? That's a well-trodden path. But I had not seen, I think now there's a little bit more of this, but I hadn't seen like elite bands of warriors who underwent something like what we would consider systematized bureaucratic modern training, right? It's always just like, oh, well, this guy was like, he's an awesome swordsman and this guy has a bow and she's an elf and there they go.
Right.
And it's like, that's no way to run an empire. And so, you know, what would it be like if you took, you know, and I like to read, you know, like a lot of nonfiction. I've read, you know, nonfiction about modern military stuff. Like what would be like if you superimpose that onto a fantasy aesthetic. I hadn't seen that.
Right.
So I was excited to try to do that. So that wasn't just like some creation of my own brain. That was an amalgamation of reading about like a lot of modern military history and reading a lot of fantasy and thinking like, well, what if these two had a baby? What would that look like? And then like another tributary is before I did this, I was a high school teacher and I taught history and world religion and philosophy. And so I think, as is pretty obvious, you know, especially in the Caden plot line, but kind of all over the place, I was playing with real world mythologies, but twisting them and tweaking them and, you know, pushing them in a direction that maybe they didn't go in real life. And so again, that wasn't just something at the beginning of the day that I was just like, now I need to write about Shin monks. But it was, after reading a lot of Taoist stuff and Buddhist stuff and, trying to play with that. But I think that the ultimate, the core engine of everything ends up being the characters. And you kind of have a character that you want to work with. And as that character gets developed, then it really is the decisions of that character and trying to be true to the character and their relationships with each other that drives the whole beast forward. If you don't have that, I think you end up with kind of a soulless crust of a book. And that means that a lot of it's very unexpected. Like one of the reasons, coming back to the beginning of this conversation, that I suck at synopses is I'm like, I'll write you a synopsis, but I guarantee you something's going to happen by chapter 15 and we're not going to be on that synopsis anymore. So like when Gwenna came into these books, Gwenna got Valen's plotline. Like I thought that what happened with Gwenna in the third book would be Valen.
Right.
But Valen was in such a dark place by the end of book 2 that he couldn't just go back and be like a Ketrot leader anymore,
Right.
He had to go somewhere else. And I tried to write him into that other thing. And there's a scene near the end of book 3, which you probably don't remember, but Valen and Gwenna have reconvened and Valen looks at her and he's like, what went wrong with me? He's like, that was supposed to be my life. Like,
right.
I was supposed to be her. And I think that was a true thing for him to observe as a character. But it was also like my joke to myself because, I thought her plot line was originally going to be, I didn't know exactly what was going to happen in that third book, but something like that where, Valen, first book, he trains up, he gets to a certain level. Second book, crisis. Third book, redemption. Right. And he kind of gets his redemption in the third book, but it's a much darker redemption than I had originally anticipated.
It's crazy that you did that because her character, like, you made that very believable because I agree with what you're saying. Like, that totally could have been Valen, but that also, like, when Gwenna kind of took on that leadership role, I think as a reader, I was like, this makes complete sense. She was a bossy pants from day one. She was telling Valen what to do before Valen was even the leader. So it was totally believable that it would be Gwenna at the end of the day. Yeah. That's so funny that it wasn't, meant to be originally. That's cool to hear.
But then, and this is where, like, I think it really pays off to think a lot about your characters, even your minor characters from early in the game. Because you never know where anybody's going to go or what character that seemed like a minor character suddenly is going to be pretty important to what you're doing. And so having laid the groundwork doesn't mean you need to spend thousands of pages on them, but just to have them really thought through carefully and be believable and, really animated, I think is very helpful to me when I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, well, okay, who do I have? I've got, my books are big, so I usually have a lot of characters. Who have I got that I can step in here? You're kind of like the coach in that moment. You're like, my main character's out, like he's injured. Who else we got on the bench? And that's really handy if you have a deep bench.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because you want to have enough characters so you can do that believably, but then you also want to have some semblance of character development. So you don't want to establish all your characters and then only put them in the same exact roles. I also want to say that I like to think of myself as not a fan of tricks in writing, but I think I take that back. I think I actually am a very big fan of tricks in writing as long as I haven't seen it before. Because the Valen trick in his first chapter of the third book is exceptional. Where the kid is named
I was
after
pleased with
him.
that. I was so inordinately pleased.
So good.
Well, that was a fun
good.
chapter to write because it's something you can only do in a book, right? You can't do it on screen. And I'm always jealous because the movies have a bunch of tricks that you can only do on screen that you can't do in a book. Like at the end of Silence of the Lambs, you think they're breaking into the house, but they're breaking into the wrong house. I don't know. If you go back and rewatch Silence of the Lambs, you'll see
Yeah, I do have to.
There's a very particular movie trap that is set for the viewer, and it works because the way they cut it, you think that the exterior shots of the house correspond to what is being interleaved with it of the interior of what's happening in the house, but they're in the wrong place. They're two different things.
Yeah.
And there are a number of tricks that the movies can do like that. And I'm always like, well, what do we get? What do the books get? And you know, there are things you
That's
can
one of
do
them.
in a book that are impossible in a movie. And so I was like, God damn it, I'm doing that. I'm taking advantage of it.
I'm glad you brought
Yeah.
that up, Phil. I forgot about that chapter. And it does
good.
throw you at first. Yeah. I had
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to talk about that this wasn't I wouldn't say it as a con necessarily, but I was saddened that, and obviously huge spoiler, that Caden has to die. Him and Tan, both of them dying, I was very sad. I'm kind of curious, like, why you thought that was necessary. I think it was necessary that they had to, and I felt as a reader like that did conclude the series well for me. But obviously, like, as a fan of all the characters, you don't want anyone to not make it, you know?
Right. Well, Rampuri Tan's death is one of my major regrets of the series. Not that he died, but just to be totally candid, I never quite figured out what to do with him later in the series. Mm-hmm. He was a character that I loved, that I was really interested in. He was on my deep bench, right? Of like, I was like, I can do a ton of stuff with this guy.
For sure.
And then by book 3, I had such a broad cast of characters, and so much was going on, and I still had him, and I was like, something needs to happen with this guy. And I never felt great about. I think I could have done that better. That's like of like my top 3 things that I would do differently with the book. I would find a different arc for him in the last, half of the series. So why'd I do that? Because I couldn't think of something better. With Caden, Caden was. I think his death was much more intentional, and I don't mind that one as much. In part, I think it was a necessary outgrowth of his character. He's becoming less and less human. Right, as he applies more and more of his Shin training and his ability to go into the Vaniate. And, his death and his brief relationship with Triste at the end is like kind of like the only way that he can really reclaim his humanity. Because he's becoming more and more like the Testream, right? And they are immortal and emotionless and, all of these things that, in theory, all these characters are fighting against. And so I wanted that to really put a strong peg, end his plotline with a very human death so that it's clear he doesn't go down that path and become the thing that they've been fighting against all this time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That was the answer
I think as
I
an
needed.
author,
Thank you.
Yeah. There's layers. A more cynical layer is that as an author, I think you really need to build, at least I felt like it was important for myself to build a reputation with my readers that like main characters can die. Because hopefully I will have readers who go on and read all my books. And there are certain authors I really love, but I'm just like, I know all these characters have plot armor. Now, I don't want to go so far as George R. R. Martin, where it's like, wait, everybody I read this book in book 1 is dead.
Yeah.
Right? How do we do it? But I kind of think that like every book, you owe one character to the Lord of the Grave. And then that keeps everybody honest, keeps everybody on their toes. That like, things can still happen. And that's
100%.
like a lifelong play that whenever somebody's reading a Brian Staveley book, they're like, somebody might not make it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
I love that you like emphasized earlier that the characters are like really what makes it, and everything else has to like without that, it's really just a shell. I love that there was clear like this is right and this is wrong. Like obviously we're fighting the Secesstream. But Caden kind of becomes this anti-hero a little bit. Tan, which is like who was such like a lovable and maybe lovable is the wrong word, but like you were like always rooting
Yeah.
for him, and he was so wise,
Yeah.
but he was
Yeah.
in the end he was he was wrong.
Right.
Like they were
Right.
all
Yeah.
like they were flawed, and
Yeah.
you wanted the empire to succeed. That was kind of like the right side, but then you're like, oh wait, this has a chance to be a republic. I'm a Western man here. Like I would be rooting for that more than an empire.
Yeah.
That was
Totally.
cool. Like there was no clear line in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was,
I really enjoyed
like
that.
obviously a goal of mine. I like fiction, and I like just questions in general that are murky and muddy and, confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so all that being said, like do you go in, like, did you have a message you were trying to send here? Did you have a goal of like something to pass, or is just like a great story?
No, I don't generally like fiction that I feel like is pushing any kind of message. I'm like, I don't mind messages, but like write me an essay. No, I think fiction's job is to confuse all the messages, and to make it seem like, just to embody the muddiness and murkiness of what it's like to be a human. And so, some people that maybe some characters that you really admire in some ways, really you do not admire in other ways. And, and vice versa, maybe some of the characters who are pretty shitty, like maybe they have some redemptive qualities. No, zero message. And it's interesting when I get fan mail or angry mail from people, like just the Cattrall in general. I get a ton of messages from like military folks who have read the books, and they're like, "Oh, great, loved it, love the military stuff." And then every now and then I get messages from military people who are angry, and they're like, "Why weren't the Cattrall better? Like, why are they bad guys?" And I'm like, "Well, they're not bad guys or good guys. They're just folks who have undergone a certain background and a certain training and have a certain set of viewpoints, and some of them are really shitty and some of them are really great." But it always interests me because I think some people, they see their own message in what I'm trying to write, but I don't really have a message. I mean, even in the Kest stream, who are like the bad guys of the book, like, I don't know, is human society better? Maybe not. Right? Like they lived relatively peacefully, and they were interested in science and learning and all that stuff.
Like from a over like high looking view, you're like, this is a kind of a noble goal. It's like just improving, the world, but then like how you go about doing it is maybe not the greatest way.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to complicate whatever. If something seems obvious to me, that's a red flag. I'm like, well, I should probably complicate that. And trying to complicate the things for my characters as well. I mean, you'll see if you read The Empire's Ruin, which is the beginning of the third one. The first chapter just is like it is both literally, there are a lot of explosives, and in terms of the plot and the characters that you guys know, there are a ton of explosives. And it basically Gwen is the main character of that next book, and it just takes what looks like is going to be her plot arc and then some different shit has to happen. So that she has to confront, because the problem is you get a character to a certain end point and then they get a little comfortable, and that doesn't make for good fiction. So you got to get them uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we could talk about this series forever, and I did want to do our ratings. We do a 1 through 5 scale, so it was a 5 for me, and I think the Cattrall are the coolest. This is like a pretty bold statement, but I feel comfortable saying it. The coolest elite group of warriors I've ever read about. We read Blood Song as one of the other books in this series, and I think I still like the Cattrall better than the Sixth Order. Very well done. And then we thank you so much for writing this book and series. And then this series I would recommend. So if you liked the Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne trilogy, I would try the Riera Revelations by Michael J. Sullivan. I don't think they're anything alike. I just feel like this series, I haven't heard of it as much and being pushed on like any kind of like TikTok or Instagram fantasy, and I think people are missing out. So yeah, I really enjoyed. It's more of a happy-go-lucky fantasy series, and so that would be my
Yeah,
recommendation.
his stuff is a little bit more buddies. I like his stuff, but like a little more buddies and a slightly more lighthearted. Yeah, I think it's like a little bit more like the golden age of fantasy than like the modern, more gritty.
Right.
But I like his. Yeah, I like his.
It's entertaining. It kind of surprises you. I think.
Yeah.
The second series in that is very worth reading, Phoebe.
The next one. Yeah.
There's 6 books. That's the one I finished earlier this year.
I'll have to try those out. So Brian, you can rate your book if you want, but I think we would really love to hear a recommendation if people liked the book.
I mean, a writer that I love and I read everything by is Joe Abercrombie. And it's because his stuff is incredibly character driven, and he has some of the most memorable characters that I've ever read in fantasy. Like Logan Nine Fingers is just an absolutely unforgettable character. And so, yeah, if you like character driven stuff, I mean, he does a lot of things well, but you can tell that the heart and soul of what he's doing is based on putting interesting characters in difficult situations. Yeah.
Thank you. Great recommendation. Phil, what about you?
I think so. For me, it's 5 stars as well. I would recommend the Brent Weeks, the Lightbringer series. Starts with the Black Prism. That also has a pretty good group of elite warriors as well, I will say. In it. So, but that doesn't start till the second book in the series. So I think those are good. Very funny you say Joe Abercrombie. I have bounced off of Joe Abercrombie. But I liked that main series I bounced off of, the one with Logan Nine Fingers.
Yeah.
I liked his YA one, the Half a King.
Yeah. Half a King, yeah.
I really like that one. So sometimes it just catches you at a wrong time in life. So I'll probably go back and try Joe Abercrombie.
Well, I will say about Abercrombie, he was kind of the same generation as George R. R. Martin, where people were like, what if we just made everything horrible in our books?
It's
nothing good ever happens to anyone. Yeah. And the first trilogy I really loved, but he almost lost me in maybe his 4th or 5th book, where I was like, come on, can one good person just have one nice thing happen to them? Yeah. It was almost formulaic how horrible things were, but I think he has learned and corrected for that. So in his recent books, I would say it's you get the good, the bad, and the ugly, and some nice people have nice endings for a change.
Yeah, that's
so I think I don't know if he identified that consciously or not, but I think his new books are, for me, right in the sweet spot of moral complexity and darkness and light and humor, instead of some of the earlier books where you're like, this is just I liked that character for a minute. They're probably, going to be
the main plot point of that first one is just him torturing. It's just the torture scene for half the book. It's just
No, I don't disagree with that assessment. And I would say, since you read the first one, his second trilogy, well, anyway, we'll talk about this later, but give him another chance.
Will do.
Isaac, what about you?
So mine is Blood Song by Anthony Ryan and the whole Raven's Shadow trilogy. These two are neck and neck for some of the best fantasy that I've read. I think probably ever.
And he also has a Valen, I think.
Yes, I know. That is crazy.
Al Sauna. That's
And our books came out
just so good.
Apart.
Oh, really?
What's that?
That's very funny.
So
Our
neither of you
first
the
books
other one
came out
was
a year
doing that.
apart.
That's so funny.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's so funny. What are the chances? And a 5, I'm guessing, Isaac, for you.
Yeah,
rating
5,
wise.
Sure.
Yeah. No, this was so fun to talk about. Next time when we meet again, we'll be reading The Raven Boys. Isaac, would you just briefly tell us about that? Very different. I don't know if you've read this, Brian, but it's The Raven Boys by Maggie Stevarte or Stevert.
Steve Otter.
Wow, I was way off. Sorry.
So Raven Boys is about Blue Sergeant and a group of local prep school boys nicknamed the Raven Boys. And Blue befriends these boys and helps them with their obsessive quest to find a sleeping Welsh king in Virginia. And that's Glendower. And if whoever finds Glendower, the legend says they're granted their wishes.
Mm-hmm. It's a little more supernatural, less fantasy. But good book. And Brian, thank you again. This felt like you have always been part of our book club. It was so awesome to talk to you and pick your brain. Yeah. Really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And as always, we'll sign off by saying, call someone that you love, tell them that you love them, tell them about a good book that you've read, tell them about Brian's books. And until we meet again, stay classy, second pagers. We'll see you later.
Bye, guys.
See you guys. Thanks so much, Brian. Yeah, really awesome.